Look at the car in your driveway. It's probably reliable. It's probably safe. It probably connects to your phone and tells you the weather. But does it have a soul? We are living in the age of the appliance. Cars have become computers on wheels, numb, plastic, and silent. They are designed by committees to meet safety regulations and fuel economy targets. But there was a time when cars were designed by artists and built by lunatics. There was a time when a car wasn't just transportation, it was an event. It smelled of unburnt fuel, old leather, and hot oil. It required strength to steer and courage to brake. It was dangerous, it was beautiful, and it was alive. Today, we are opening the vault. We are looking at the machines that define the golden age of motoring. We are ignoring the classics that are just old and focusing on the icons that change the world. From the British spy car to the Italian stallion that costs more than a private island. These are the top 5 vintage cars of all time. Number 5, the Jaguar E-Type, Series 1. We begin at number 5 with the car that Enzo Ferrari, the man who hated giving compliments, called the most beautiful car ever made, the Jaguar E-Type. When this car was unveiled at the Geneva Motor Show in 1961, it didn't just turn heads, it caused a riot. People were fainting. The press went insane. Why? Because until that moment, if you wanted a car that could do 150 miles per hour, you had to spend a fortune on a Ferrari or an Aston Martin. Then Jaguar arrived. They dropped a bomb. The E-Type was faster than a Ferrari, more beautiful than an Aston Martin, and it cost half the price. It was the first democratized supercar. It was the car of the swinging 60s. Rock stars drove them, models drove them. It was sex on wheels, just look at it. The bonnet is impossibly long. The curves are organic. There isn't a single straight line on the entire body. It looks like it was poured from liquid metal, not stamped in a factory. But it wasn't just a pretty face. Under that endless hood sat a 3.8-liter, and later 4.2-liter, straight-six engine that howled like a banshee. It had independent rear suspension when most cars were still using ox-cart technology. Driving an E-Type today is a physical experience. You sit low, near the rear axle, massive hood, and you realize that you are piloting a piece of art. It squeaks, it rattles, and the electrical system is famously terrible. But you don't care. Because when you see your reflection in a shop window, you know you are driving the most stylish machine ever built by human hands. Number 4, the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing. At number 4, we have the car that invented the word supercar, the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing. In the early 1950s, Mercedes was dominating racing. They had a race car called the W194. An American importer named Max Hoffman told them, "If you put a license plate on that race car, I can sell 1,000 of them to rich Americans." Mercedes listened, and in 1954, they gave us the Gullwing. The most famous feature, of course, is the doors. They hinge from the roof and open upwards like the wings of a seagull. But do you know why they do that? It wasn't for style, it was for engineering. The car is built on a tubular space frame chassis, basically a skeleton of metal tubes. These tubes ran high along the sides of the car to provide stiffness. Because the chassis was so high, you couldn't cut a normal door into it. So the engineers had no choice but to hinge the doors from the roof. Form followed function. This was the first production car to use direct fuel injection, technology that didn't become standard in normal cars for another 50 years. It was capable of 160 miles per hour in 1954. To put that in perspective, most cars back then struggled to do 60. Driving a Gullwing is terrifying. It has a swing axle rear suspension, which means if you lift off the throttle in a corner, the back wheels tuck under, and the car spins. It was known as the Widowmaker, but look at it. It is elegance and aggression wrapped in silver. It is the car that proved Germany was back on the world stage. Today, a good one will cost you nearly $2 million. And every time you lift that door, you are opening a chapter of history. Number 3, the Aston Martin DB5. At number 3, we have a car that isn't the fastest nor the most advanced, but it is, without a shadow of a doubt, the coolest, the Aston Martin DB5. You cannot talk about this car without talking about one man, Bond, James Bond. In 1964, the film Goldfinger came out. In it, Sean Connery drove a silver birch DB5. He pressed a button to eject the passenger. He used machine guns hidden in the headlights. In that moment, the DB5 ceased to be just a car. It became a cultural icon, but strip away the spy gadgets, and what do you have? You have the ultimate British Grand Tourer. The DB5 is not a sports car. It is a brute in a tuxedo. It has a 4.0-liter straight-six engine that sounds like tearing silk. The interior is a sensory overload of Connolly leather, thick wool carpets, and chrome switchgear. It smells like a gentleman's club. Driving a DB5 is heavy work. The steering is unassisted. The clutch is heavy. The gearbox requires a firm hand. But that is the point. You don't flick this car around a track. You drive it to Monte Carlo for a poker game. It is the most famous car in the world. If you pull up in a Ferrari, people think you are rich. If you pull up in a DB5, people think you are interesting. It transcends money. It is the definition of class. Number 2, the Lamborghini Miura. At number 2, we have the car that changed the layout of the automobile forever, the Lamborghini Miura. Before the Miura, fast cars had their engines in the front, like the Ferrari Daytona or the E-Type. But in 1966, a group of young Lamborghini engineers worked in secret at night to build something radical. They took a massive V12 engine and mounted it behind the driver, but turned it sideways, transversely. This was race car technology brought to the street. When Ferruccio Lamborghini saw it, he gave it the green light. They wrapped the chassis in a body designed by Marcello Gandini, a 27-year-old genius. The result was shock and awe. The Miura looks like a predator. It has eyelashes around the headlights. It sits impossibly low to the ground. When you open the rear clamshell, the V12 engine sits there like a jewel in a display case. It was the fastest production car in the world when it launched. It terrified Ferrari. It made the front engine cars look like dinosaurs overnight. Is it a good car to drive? Absolutely not. The front end gets light at high speeds because it generates lift like an airplane wing. The fuel tank is over your knees, so if you crash, you explode. It is hot, loud, and cramped. But none of that matters. The Miura is the birth of the modern supercar. Every Bugatti, every Koenigsegg, every McLaren exists because of the DNA of the Miura. It is the most rock and roll car ever made. Number 1, the Ferrari 250 GTO. And finally, number 1, the Holy Grail, the Ferrari 250 GTO. This is not just a car. It is the Mona Lisa of the mechanical world. Only 36 were ever made. If you want to buy one today, you don't look at a price tag. You wait for an auction, and you bring about $70 million. Why? What makes this old Ferrari worth more than a private jet? It is the perfect storm of history, beauty, and performance. The GTO stands for Gran Turismo Omologato. It was built to race, and it dominated. It won the World Sports Car Championship 3 years in a row. It was the pinnacle of Ferrari's engineering in the 1960s. Under the long sweeping hood is the Colombo 512 engine. It is widely considered the greatest engine ever built. It breathes through 6 carburetors. When you step on the gas, it doesn't make a noise. It makes music. It is a mechanical symphony of intake roar and exhaust scream. But unlike many vintage cars, the GTO is actually brilliant to drive. It is balanced. It talks to you. A racing driver can get in a GTO today and drift it around a corner with one hand on the wheel. It is pure, unfiltered connection between man and machine. Then there is the design. It wasn't designed by a stylist. It was designed by aerodynamics. But by accident, they created the most voluptuous, aggressive, and perfect shape to ever sit on 4 wheels. Owning a 250 GTO is the endgame. It is the membership card to the most exclusive club on earth. It is the most valuable, the most desirable, and the greatest vintage car of all time. So there you have it. The E-Type, the Gullwing, the DB5, the Miura, and the GTO. These cars are more than just metal and rubber. They are time capsules. They represent a moment in history where we didn't care about safety ratings or emissions or touchscreens. We cared about speed, We cared about beauty. We cared about the drive. We will never see machines like this again. The world has moved on. We have moved to silence and autonomy. But as long as there is gasoline left in the tank, these 5 legends will remind us of what it felt like to really drive. Which one would you park in your dream garage? The 007 Aston or the $70 million Ferrari? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip back in time, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Drive safe.